Police force discriminated against white heterosexual male, tribunal rules. Yes, if anyone saw that Essex police advert about the diversity hires, I'm sure that everyone was expecting something like this to happen soon. So, a police force which rejected a potential star recruit because he was a white heterosexual male has been found guilty of discrimination. I am not surprised, because not hiring someone based on their skin colour and sexuality is very, very unjust and definitely deserves to be punished. Matthew Furlong, 25, whose father is a serving detective inspector in Cheshire Police, had hoped to follow in his footsteps when he applied to join the force in 2017. After making it through the interview stage, he said that he was told it was refreshing to meet someone as well prepared as yourself, and that he could not have done any more. But he was later told that he had lost out to other candidates, leading his father to lodge a complaint. Now, I do want to focus on that father bit. So his dad is a detective inspector, which I believe is quite high up in the police rankings, which initially means that this Matthew Furlong had a very good chance of knowing exactly what he needed to do to actually get in the police force, which hence he was well prepared, and he couldn't have done any more. Now, you'd think the police would want a star candidate, but when he didn't get one and his father puts a complaint in, I think that says to me that there is genuinely something afoot here, and obviously, since now it's come out that they have actually got a discrimination case that a tribunal has found that they have broken, well, obviously something was going on here, but I do find that quite interesting, because I don't even think a complaint will have been made about this unless his father was a detective inspector who knew the ins and outs of Cheshire Police. But I will continue. Mr. Furlong, who studied particle physics and cosmology at Lancaster University, has now won an employment tribunal case which found Cheshire Police discriminated against him on the grounds of sexual orientation, race and sex. Wow, was it all three? His lawyer said that it is the first reported case of this kind in the UK after the employment tribunal ruled that Cheshire Constabulary used positive action, where employers take steps to recruit certain groups of people with different characteristics, but in a discriminatory way. So it's actually called positive discrimination, but for some reason they're using the word positive action here, probably as some type of newspeak to make it sound quite good. Jennifer Ainscough, an employment lawyer at Slater and Gordon, said Matthew was denied his dream job simply because he was white, heterosexual, male. This is the first reported case of this kind in the UK where positive action, I'm going to call it discrimination because I'm not going to let you use this newspeak, has been used in a discriminatory way. Matthew's courage in speaking out will hopefully ensure it is the last. Well, it was his father, really. Had he not been such an exceptional candidate, he may not even have suspected anything was wrong, and this unlawful and unacceptable selection process may have been allowed to continue. Positive discrimination is an important tool to support a diverse workforce that reflects the community in which we live. However, it must be applied lawfully to ensure the highest calibre of candidates are recruited regardless of race, gender, or sexual orientation, and to ensure standards in police forces are maintained and properly protect our society. Now, here's the thing. How in God's name are you going to ensure that you're going to get a diverse police force without picking and choosing your candidates that you are going to employ based on these diverse characteristics? I'm not going into the ins and outs of why diversity doesn't matter anyway, because I've gone over that many times on this channel anyway. But let's say we do actually want the needless goal of diversity. How are you going to do that without discriminating? How are you going to do that without hand-picking people of certain characteristics? Say you've got 10% of a black community and only, let's say, out of all your candidates that have applied to join, only 2 out of, say, 100 of the people applying for the police job are black. Now let's say that odds are let's say they're all equal and they're at the final stage of the interview and the 2 have actually managed to get through. That's unlikely as it is, alright? But then how do you, say, make sure they get through the last 5? Well, in this case, as we're going to go through, you discriminate. There is no way you can have positive discrimination. It is an oxymoron. It can't exist. You cannot have any justification that is positive for discriminating against someone based on their skin colour. That is what Martin Luther King made sure we all understood in the civil rights movement in America in the 60s. So after 4 days, the Liverpool tribunal heard that Mr. Furlong had been a victim of direct discrimination. It ruled that while positive action can be used to boost diversity, okay, that's technically true, it should only be applied to distinguish between candidates who are all equally well qualified for the role. So, if you are on equal footing, whiteys, with a black man, the black man's gonna get your job. How the hell do you determine whether they are truly equal? There must be something or anything other than skin colour you can use to determine that. My God. The force claimed it had seen 127 candidates who were equally suitable for the role of police constable was a fallacy. Well, I think saying there are 2 candidates who are equally suitable for a role is a fallacy. The tribunal ruled. And imposing such an artificially low threshold, assigning candidates a pass or fail rather than any kind of score, was not a proportionate response to addressing the force's lack of diversity. Can the constable do this job? Yes or no? Right, 127 people equal. Let's go. Oh my God. So out of 127 people, they could literally pick and choose the non-white people to hire. That's awful. The Cheshire Police was among a number of forces criticised in 2015 for having no black officers, but it has since taken steps to improve opportunities for those with protected characteristics relating to BAME, gender, sexual orientation and disability. Its efforts have resulted in a number of national awards and recognition, including being chosen to host the National Black Police Association's conference in 2017. That's a thing? Can we stop? Oh, you're a policeman. Your skin colour doesn't matter. Oh my God. Why do you need a whole conference just for black police men? Stop. I nearly said police people. What is wrong with me? This is what social justice has done to my brain. The case has been adjourned until later this year for a remedy hearing to determine the amount of compensation to be awarded. A whole job is what you should take. A spokesman for Cheshire Police said, "We have been notified of the outcome of the tribunal and will review the findings over the coming days." Stop the talk about diversity. It is ruining our institutions. Well, since they were criticised in 2015, let's take a look at what their response was in 2015. So from a BBC article, in 2015, Simon Burns' Cheshire Force was criticised by the then Home Secretary Theresa May for having no black officers. It now employs 3. Good work, lads. Absolute stellar work. Mr. Byrne was legislation change to allow a policy where for every white officer we recruit a black one. The Home Secretary said there was no need for positive discrimination, but apparently they went through with it anyway. Cheshire Police last year introduced an outreach programme to attract female, LGBT and ethnic minority recruits, but the Chief Constable admitted the pace of change is still small and suggested a change in the law could speed things up in terms of a force truly representing the communities they serve. Well, you know what? Let's see what type of community that Cheshire Police will be serving. I'm going to go through the demographics of the 2011 census, since that's the most recent demographic data I can find. So, looking at these stats, we have a whole mixture of different types of white people, which all adds up to about 97.5% of Cheshire is made up of white people, and the rest of the 2.5% is from BAME backgrounds. So, let's assume that you do want this 1-for-1 black officer per white officer recruiting system. You're going to have to get rid of 97.5% of your potential recruits for every single one of those potential recruits you do end up employing. You're going to very quickly run out of black people who are even interested in becoming officers, and even more quickly out of people who are even capable of being officers, because being an officer is quite hard. And hell, I believe you need a degree to become a police officer now anyway. Because bear in mind, not everyone from that BAME background will have a degree, and not everyone from that BAME background will even be an age where being a police officer is feasible. So if you want to run your police department into the ground, do what Cheshire does, and be in a place where it's 97.5% white people, and then try your best to discriminate against them as much as you can. But I do seriously want to say at this point that the police just seem to be in a right state at the moment in the UK. I mean, you've got knife crime going on constantly in the metropolitan area of London. You've got hundreds of police cars in the Greater Manchester area that just have loads of rainbows on, saying, "We police with pride." And finally, you've got Cheshire Police themselves saying, "We would like to remind all social media users to think carefully about what they are saying before they post messages online. Although you may believe your message is acceptable, others may take offence, and you could face a large fine or up to 2 years in prison if your message is deemed to have broken the law." What? So even though your intention is to be absolutely non-criminal and maybe just to be a bit of edgy banter, if anyone else takes offence that might not have even been involved in that conversation, you could face a large fine or up to 2 years in prison. Cheshire, sort your goddamn police force out. They are out of control. But that's everything I had to say at this point, because I am now worried that putting this video online, along with others that I have made, could get me a large fine or up to 2 years in prison. But in the meantime, until that happens, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Assuming I'm not in jail.